Hello everybody, Baxter Smith here, the Big B, B-Man from Lincoln University, class of 1967. Got some questions here I've got to answer. Let's see, what dorm did I go to, or did I live in? I lived in Crescent Hall, I remember that one. Roommates were Chubb, Ron Welburn, Phil Taylor from Boston, and Jimmy Young, who was a white student who lived in York, PA. He was my freshman roommate. I'm originally from Philadelphia. I live in Baltimore now for the past 30 years. I majored in psychology. I had enough, or almost enough, I guess, for a minor in anthropology and sociology. I played tennis at Lincoln. I was on the varsity team all 4 years. In my senior year, I made it as far as the conference tournament. So that was a high point, championships, conference championships. So that was the high point of my tennis career at Lincoln. I had two colleges that I applied to, Lincoln and Howard University in DC. Got accepted at both, decided to go to Lincoln because it's closer to Philadelphia. Lincoln affected me most, I think, by being exposed to students who came from other parts of the world, international students from Africa, the Caribbean. I remember in my first year there were 2 students from Israel. And also because I grew up in the north, in Philadelphia, exposure to students who lived in the south, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, because I had never had any experiences with Jim Crow segregation in Philadelphia. I pledged Kappa. I never married, but I have a life partner who's filming this now. Her name is Ann Morrison.
Hi there, everybody.
There's Annie right there. Annie's a Philly girl. She grew up outside of Philadelphia. And let's see, I've lived in Baltimore for 30 years about. After Lincoln, I moved out west to California, lived in Los Angeles for 5 years, lived in New York City for 5 years, Washington, D.C. for 2 years. I lived in the Caribbean for 3 years on my sailboat, where I sailed up and down the Caribbean, and now Baltimore. No children, no grandchildren. Career-wise, you could say I've been a writer slash editor slash journalist just about all my life. I retired after 22 years working at a newspaper here in Baltimore. Retired a year and a half ago. I was the newspaper's editor. For a very brief while I had a couple of blue-collar jobs. Worked in a steel mill here in Baltimore and a chemical plant. What I'm most proud of, what Lincoln gave me that I'm most proud of is just the exposure to the world and the fact that I was able to broaden my horizons, I think, to become a critical thinker and to have learned much more about the black experience. My favorite professors were Dr. Gunn, Dr. Cornwell, Dr. Davies in the religion department. Although I think, although as many courses I took in religion, I was sort of striving to try to understand who I am, who we are as a species, and what it ended up doing was turning me into a materialist. Okay, what am I doing now that I've reached the age of retirement? Well, I am retired, been retired for a year and a half now, and just enjoying the things that I really like the most. Activities such as cycling. I've been a cyclist for about 20 years, ridden my bikes in in a lot of states. In California, I've ridden across the state of Florida, up in Maine and New England. In Canada, I've ridden. I have 4 different bicycles. I have one that folds up into a hard shell suitcase. I took that one to Europe, so I've ridden in Holland. I took it to East Africa. I rode in Tanzania and Zanzibar. And anytime you're riding a bicycle, if you're riding around the world or just around the block, be sure to wear a helmet. Protect your melon. I've always been an avid traveler. I've traveled to lots of countries, foreign countries, states. I've been to 6 of the 7 continents on this globe. I always have liked the Caribbean. Hey man, how's it going? How's things? Like I said, I've lived there on my boat for a few years, so I enjoyed that. This is a sail. This is a spinnaker sail. You've probably seen pictures of sailboats with these colorful, big ballooning sails. This is the spinnaker for the sailboat that Annie and I own. It's a Sea Sprite 34. We keep it in Maryland, in Baltimore here. And also, I can't forget tennis, my favorite sport. I'm not as fast on the court as I used to be, but I still enjoy it. It's a great sport. Also, over the years, I've gotten into running. I've run a number of events, but Annie and I, we spent the winter out in California, and I helped volunteer with the organizing of the LA Marathon. And each year, Annie and I are volunteers with the Baltimore Marathon and Running Festival.